Hello, everybody.
Hi.
Surprised to see us on a Monday, I guess. Father's just getting back from vacation. He has graciously allowed us to do 3 sessions to continue in the book that we had done last week on Why Be Catholic by Patrick Madrid. And the second chapter that we want to go over with you these next couple of days is, he has it entitled, You Can Handle the Truth. And it's the historical case for the Catholic Church. So I wanted to read from this section on the second chapter here. And again, these are the words of Patrick. In my own search for answers to the question, why be Catholic, I determined early on that having a good feeling about the Catholic Church was no substitute for knowing whether or not the teachings of the Catholic Church are true. For me, plausibility was not enough. I needed to know whether these teachings were in fact true. If they weren't, I wanted no part of the Catholic Church. In fact, if even some Catholic teachings were false, I told myself I'd hit the door running and never look back. When I was a child, my rationale for being Catholic was simple. My parents said it. I believe it. That settles it. Many of you can probably relate to that, as I know that's the way I think Linda and I were both brought up. I had, as we all did at one time, a childlike faith. But as I grew older, it gradually became clear to me that being Catholic and accepting Catholic teaching just because that's what my parents told me was not enough of a reason. The older I got, and the more life's rich pageant of tantalizing discoveries and experiences impressed themselves on my mind, the more I came to see that I had to test these teachings to see whether they held up under scrutiny. I discovered that not only were there lots of non-Catholics out there, but more than a few of them did not like the Catholic Church. When I was 11, I got into a chance discussion about God with an atheist lady who lived across the street. Once, while she was driving my sister and me somewhere as a favor for our mom, I happened to mention God in an otherwise innocuous conversation. This set her off, and she proceeded to berate me. "There is no such thing as God," she scolded. "He doesn't exist, and people who believe in God believe in a myth." Needless to say, at 11 years old, I was pretty defenseless against her atheist sloganeering about how God doesn't exist. I can't remember anything about what arguments she used, although I do recall not finding them persuasive. When I was 14, a pair of earnest Mormon missionaries showed up at our front door. They were nice enough at first, and when I invited them in and we sat in the living room, I kind of liked the fact that 2 19-year-olds would have an interest in talking on a serious level with someone of my age. But as soon as the conversation ventured into the tenets of Mormonism, I got fired up and began arguing with them. They could quote Bible passages freely, and I couldn't. I knew that what these 2 Mormon guys were telling me wasn't right, but I didn't have enough knowledge to explain why. I felt my curiosity being piqued in a new way. I wanted to dig deeper into my own Catholic faith, its history and doctrines, so that I could be more effectively discuss it the next time missionaries showed up. I gradually began bumping into more difficult and challenging arguments against my Catholic faith. Some came from Protestants, Mormons, Jehovah's Witnesses, others from Muslims, Jews, Hindus, and other non-Christians, and atheists. Each in his own way and with his own set of objections, challenged my Catholic beliefs using the Bible historical events, real and imagined, logical arguments, some illogical ones, claims to revelations that were incompatible with the claims of Jesus Christ, science, and the dull yet forceful arguments against God's existence. Plenty of atheists, too, have taken their fair share of whacks at my belief in God over the years. My theory is that most people who have lived long enough life have a golden somewhere in their past. By this I mean a fondly remembered stretch of time, redolent with happiness, satisfaction, and genial experiences and relationships. Mine was the summer of 1977. It was all the more golden because I was dating a pretty blonde Protestant girl named Christy. When I asked her out on a date, she said yes, but insisted that I first must come to her home and meet her parents. No problem, I thought. I'm sure they'll like me. As it happened, her parents did like me, and I enjoyed being around them too, which was a bonus. But as Christy confided to me early on, her mom and dad were not at all keen on the fact that I was Catholic. My guess is that they tolerated me dating their daughter, but I'm sure they would have preferred if Christy were seeing a Protestant guy rather than a Catholic. They were sincere, warm, friendly, and fun to be around, and they showed me by their words and attitudes that they were deeply committed Christians, though not weirdly so, just normal, happy Protestant folk. This had a lot to do with why I spent so much time at Christy's house that summer. That and the fact that they also had a built-in swimming pool, which definitely sweetened the deal. In spite of all the fun I was having with Christy and her family, I soon sensed that her dad saw me as a kind of project. Before swimming in their pool or hopping in the car with Christy to go get pizza or see a movie, her father would invariably ask me first to sit down with him in their living room, where he'd then break out his large, well-worn King James Bible and begin asking me pointed questions about various Catholic beliefs and practices. I, of course, did not have a Bible with me. I had one at home, though, a beautiful leather-bound, personally inscribed gift Bible that my confirmation sponsor had given me. But I didn't read it very often, and as a result, I didn't know anywhere near as much as Christy's dad did about what was in it. What followed was a 10 or 15-minute discourse in which Christy's dad explained in his friendly, patient way why the Roman Catholic Church was wrong about this, that, and the other doctrine or practice, such as call no man father, the authority of the Pope, the notion that Catholics think they can earn their salvation, confession to a priest, infant baptism, purgatory, and, of course, Mary. He hammered me pretty hard on all these issues. That summer, I found out the hard way that Catholic teaching on Mary was a major issue for Christy's dad. The Immaculate Conception, honoring and praying to Mary, and her perpetual virginity were all issues about which he treated me to vigorous biblical arguments. Happily, my parents' large library of good Catholic books in our home meant I didn't have to look very far for the answers to the questions Christy's dad had been raising. One particularly helpful set of apologetic books was the 3-volume set of Radio Replies, which answered literally hundreds of common challenges against the Catholic Church, not just from Protestants, but from atheists as well. It proved to be a gold mine of information. Even though the Radio Replies series was at least 40 years old, The crisp, concise, and compelling answers it gave were exactly what I needed to help me counter Christy's dad's barrage of biblical and historical arguments. The more I researched the biblical and historical answers to these issues, the more I wanted to dig deeper. As each new challenge came my way, and I took the time necessary to study and probe and find the answers, I became increasingly confident that the Catholic answers to these objections were compelling and convincing. The Catholic faith itself, on its own merits, had begun to persuade me, imperceptibly and without my fully realizing it. I was starting to lay hold of the solid, satisfying answers to the question that had loomed large in my mind all summer. Why be Catholic? At this point, the tenor of my conversations with Christy's dad began to change. I became more assertive, respectfully, of course, as I didn't want to do anything to irk him into not allowing me to come around anymore. And he seemed to me to become more frustrated. He may have seen me at first as a helpless Catholic fish he could steadily reel in on the sturdy line of his biblical arguments against the Roman Catholic Church. But as the summer wore on, he had to work a good deal harder to turn the reel. By August 16, 1977, I knew I was the fish that got away. That was the day Elvis Presley died. Christy and I were out for a walk around the neighborhood that sultry afternoon when a teenager we knew came out of her house and called to us. "Hey, they just said on the radio that Elvis is dead. Can you believe it?" As improbable as it may seem, it was on that very day that it dawned on me that all the anti-Catholic arguments Christy's dad had challenged me with all summer, and all the what-if questions they had churned up in my mind, and all the opportunities those questions had offered me to start doubting or disbelieving my Catholic faith, just didn't hold water. I began to see that though there might be tougher and ultimately unanswerable challenges I would have to confront somewhere down the road, at least for now, the death cookie and call no man father variety of arguments no longer held any sway over me. Like Elvis, they had died, suddenly and unexpectedly. I want to stop right there because it probably may bring to mind for you, and it may be something to think about later today and tomorrow, is about perhaps maybe a golden summer moment of your own. I don't know what it is about summer, but those typically are some of the times when we seem to have a lot of these great memories. In fact, it was actually over the summer that I met a certain someone who's sitting next to me. And so I certainly remember that golden summer very well as we began to date. But think about it as well in terms of a particular time where your faith was perhaps challenged, or maybe even you had gone away, but began to dig a little bit deeper and think deeper about what it is the Catholic faith taught, or what you were taught about the Catholic faith, and perhaps stirred up some other, you're wanting to go into it even with a little more vim and vigor, if you would.
And perhaps also, as you're sitting here watching this, as Patrick said in the beginning, that it was important to him. He realized that he it wasn't just enough to accept, really, because his parents kind of, that's what we did. But he made the point that he wanted to, it wasn't just the Catholic Church in general, it was all the teachings of the church. And so even if there was one that, that wasn't right, that would be a problem. So just, I encourage you, if there are, teachings of the faith that you struggle with, that's fine. And it's good to ask questions, as you see is exactly what happened to him. But I would challenge you to just be true to yourself. And if you have those questions, if you don't understand, then you need to honestly, seek the answers to the questions. Don't just, in our world today, it seems like we just, if challenged, we just kind of throw out a talking point and that's the end of it. It's good to think things through, and there's so many wonderful resources. Like he tapped into this, these books that he found in his
Radio Replies.
That were how many years old, he said, at
40.
that point. There's so much today, and Patrick Madrid himself, perhaps this is why he has the radio program that he does on Relevant Radio, which is every morning for 3 hours, and he basically takes calls from people like us who have questions. So just be truthful to truthful to yourself, and honestly seek the answers.
So let me conclude, and we'll leave you with another question as well. He goes on to say, as an adult, I've been fortunate to meet and talk at length with Buddhists, Hindus, Muslims, Jews, and even a few Wiccans and other assorted, self-professed pagans. If for nothing else, I am grateful for each of these discussions, because I learned a lot from these non-Christians about the tenets of their faiths and how I, as a Christian, could better explain my beliefs to them. All my research into Catholicism from the time I was a teenager till the writing of this book has led me to believe that Catholic history, the good, the bad, and the ugly, provides a compelling answer to the question, why be Catholic? Catholic history is messy, though. Very messy, in fact. There have been some bad popes, mingled in with the many good and even heroically great popes. There were countless brave martyrs for the Catholic faith who willingly gave up their lives rather than deny Christ during the period of ferocious Roman persecutions in the 2nd through the 3rd centuries. But there were also traitors, those who apostatized at the first sign of trouble. None of the notorious subset of Catholic crusaders who committed terrible atrocities, sometimes in the name of the Catholic Church and even of God himself, can be excused or exonerated in any way. Many ask, how do I make sense of all these seemingly conflicting aspects of Catholic history? And I'll leave it right there. We'll pick it up from that point there. And we hope that you have a good Monday, and then we look forward to seeing you again tomorrow.
God bless.
Bless everybody.